This podcast was first recorded for the inaugural Brilliance Summit in 2024.
Welcome to the Brilliance Summit Podcast. I am so excited to present this to you. My name is Madeline McQueen, creator of the summit, CEO of Magnificently You, and a multi-award winning executive coach, speaker, and trainer. Now, this podcast is your pre-event content, available only to attendees, sponsors, partners, and exhibitors. You see, your Brilliant Summit experience starts right here and right now. We don't have to wait until the 27th of June to gain that learning and our joy. Oh no. Here we have a podcast series featuring amazing female leaders sharing their knowledge, experience, and their how-tos. This week's podcast guest is India Gary Martin, CEO at Leadership for Execs. And we are talking about the top 5 things every woman in leadership needs to know. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Brilliant Summit Podcast. I'm so excited about my sister friend guest today. She is awesome, and I know every time we have, whether it's a conversation or we do something like this, the gems are just sparkling. So I'd like to introduce you to India Gary Martin. Welcome, India.
Hello. And that's a very high bar. The gems are sparkling. So I'm going to try to keep up with that.
You don't have to try. That is just definitely how your gems look. You don't have dusty gems. That's for sure.
Depends on who you ask.
Oh dear, they're not still pieces of coal. That's all I need you to know. Okay, so India, introduce yourself to us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am India Gary Martin, as you said. My primary role is mother. My secondary role is wife. And mother just because it takes so much more time, not because it's secondary to my husband. And then, I'm a lifelong executive in various forms. A 22-year plus veteran of financial services before I started my own company, which focuses on leadership development across the spectrum, learning management, leadership development, coaching, content provision for learning management platforms. So kind of, across the learning management spectrum. I'm also a portfolio board director. So I have a number of board roles, both public and private. That's the big broad brush stuff.
There's a lot on. It's a big brush. That's for sure. That is for sure. And you used to be a Forbes coach as well. There's lots of other things that you have done, really impressive things. And you built your business from the ground up, which is after corporate life, which is beautiful. Hard, I know, but beautiful. So my first question for you is, what does brilliance mean to you?
I think, brilliance for me is being present and remembering your why, like knowing your why, like just sitting in your why. I don't think you can be brilliant or kind of sitting in brilliance without understanding and knowing your why deeply, because it's really difficult to shine. And I kind of equate brilliance and shining. It's really difficult to shine when you're not centered in that. Yeah. So for me, it's about kind of being present and being intentional about your why and knowing what that is and operating from that place at all times.
It's like when you're there, you automatically shine. You don't even have to try. You're just going to naturally shine.
No, love for sure. That. When you're aligned to your values and your purpose, and you just know the what, why am I doing this thing? And am I aligned? Is the way that I'm showing up aligned to how and why I do this thing?
I love that. So, you are definitely a woman in leadership. I love that you said you're a lifelong executive. And you've had a really colourful journey, both in corporate and as an entrepreneur. So how would you say this has shaped you and how you view leadership?
Um, I guess what I probably have come to find is that there's a leader in every seat. Like it does not matter how big your seat is or how small your seat is. There's a leader in every seat, and leadership is kind of a way of being as opposed to a thing that you do.
Mm.
And so, you know, I always felt like I was leading something even when I even when I wasn't. Like early in my career, you couldn't tell me anything. I was like that was but as I reflect back over the course of my life and over the course of my career and I think about my own leadership, I realize it is a way of being. And I think
Mm.
that's the twist for me on it.
So tell me something. When you say a way of being, what does that look like?
That looks like being grounded in something. Kind of like if
Mm.
you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
It's that those people where I'm going to give you a description. I'll come back to what you're saying, but those
Yeah.
people that. So let's just start with like a young child that you see, and you're like, that kid's going to do something.
Yes.
There's something about the way it's a way of being as
Hmm.
opposed to a thing that they do. It's a and it's always, again, I come back to my very first statement. It's always based in people kind of knowing who they are and knowing their why. And when you do, it's really easy for you to lead through things because
Yeah.
you're tethered. And when you're untethered, you're flying all around. But when you're tethered and it's really easy to kind of walk through it. And that way of being is kind of just walking through whatever might come your way with grace, with
Mm.
gratitude. And I'm not trying to make it sound like this big fluffy easy thing, because it isn't, right? It
Yeah.
isn't always easy. And being a leader in whatever seat you're in isn't always easy, but it is about just taking chances and risks and believing in yourself and knowing that, no matter what, you'll be okay. And
Mm.
sometimes the opinion might not be the popular one, but again, it's
Yeah.
about how you make people feel, not about what you're doing. It's about how they feel. People can live with tough stuff if you make them feel valued.
Yeah. I really hear that. It made me instantly go like my brain instantly went, it's like the certainty. And that I think that child analogy is so important. I think about my youngest child, especially, who's just like, there's some of them, like it's like from the day they're born, they're grounded. There's the groundingness, and it's like, I know who I am. It's a certainty. I know who I am. I know what
It's a
I'm here to
certainty.
do, and I know why I'm doing it. And so it doesn't matter what anybody says. There's a grounding. There's a grounding that makes a really big difference. And it's funny, I had a coaching session this morning, and one of my clients was just talking about how her leader, so she's in leadership, but the guy above her, it's like wind blows. Whoever he speaks to is the last opinion, and it's like
It's the
grounded in
worst.
nothing, right? So then,
It's
and
the
so you don't even
worst.
know, you can't tell us what your leadership plan is because you don't really know, because you're waiting for everybody else to tell you, so you can then say it's like, it's
That's
all of
very
those
common.
things.
That's
It
very
is
common,
right.
Madeline. That's a very common thing. It is so, I mean, like if I think about some of my own clients over time, and I think about some of the organizations that I work with, there are a lot of leaders who are leader by title, but not leader by behavior,
Yeah.
right? And it's so important, that groundedness, because at the end of the day, if you're leading, you have to be able to make decisions. One of the things I always say is that people will forgive a bad decision, they will not forgive indecision. And so you have to figure out what the decision you're taking is going to be. And you can do that again from any seat. Like I
Yeah.
sit in this seat, I
Yeah.
might not have, 10,000 people in my business. I might have five, whatever it might be. But making a decision making decisions and leading people through whatever the thing might be is what leadership is made of for me.
Sparkling, just to let you know, gems. So
Oh.
okay, so this podcast is about the top 5 things every woman in leadership needs to know. So let's go through those top 5. What would be the first? I know we've had a little chat about leadership. But what would be the first thing that you think every woman in leadership needs to know?
You're enough.
Ooh,
You're enough. I mean, I think that's the statement.
period.
Period, because we're often trying to fit into something that isn't who we are. And in doing that can sometimes lose ourselves a little bit and start, the imposter syndrome thing, the confidence thing. And actually, you're enough just as you are. You wouldn't be like, somebody believed it for you to come, even be here, be doing this thing.
Yeah.
So just remember you're enough.
Love that. By virtue of your position.
By
You got here for a
virtue, by
reason.
virtue of your life, you're
Yeah,
enough.
absolutely. Of your being.
Of your
Full
being.
stop. Absolutely. Okay, great. So it's a good one to start with. I think it's also a good one for people to use as one of their journal prompts, as their, as their manifestations. I am enough. End of. And so what about your second? So what would that be for you, that second top thing?
I think it goes back to being tethered, being certain, being assured in your steps, like being sure of being. And when I say be sure, it doesn't mean be sure of, you can't be sure of what the outcome is going to be, but you
Mhm.
can certainly be sure about how you respond and how you walk through it. So
Yeah.
I think it is about being certain and being sure about how you will respond to whatever may come your way.
Yeah.
Your response, because that's the only thing you can control. You can't control anybody else's. You can influence, but you can't control. You can control yourself.
Yes.
And so how do you ensure that you are, the decisions that you make for you're sure in, and you have certainty there, and that's where you put your certainty in you.
Yeah. Love that. So obviously we've had your first 2. What then would be your third?
Oh, my third is, it's quite an interesting one, because I have them in an order, and now I'm thinking, now that I've said the other 2 and I've started speaking it, I'm like, I have I think I might change the order a little bit here.
That's nice. Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so my third one is about intention and planning.
Mm.
And it is, it's okay to allow things to emerge. I think that is a good thing. And giving space for things to emerge is a great thing. But be intentional and know what you want, and more importantly, know what you don't. Like, be very clear about what you don't want. Like, I don't want this thing. I don't want these things. Like, when I think about my career or my role or my life, here are the things I don't want.
Yeah.
Because when you know what you don't want, it opens up the world for what you do.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that there's that intentionality and being clear and planning for what you want and what you don't. Because often we fall into what we don't because we're not clear about what we do.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I think the other thing about that, and one thing's, I'm sure you do it too, which is, when it's your strategic planning time, when you're not doing, when you're not delegating, when are you going to have to sit down and think about what your intentions are, what your plan is, what you think the strategy should be based on, who you are, what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, like, and also what the hell are you trying to achieve?
For sure.
Do
For
you even
sure.
know?
For
You
sure.
know, I
For
think there's
sure.
a lot of us fall into just responding and reactive as opposed to strategic, directive, determined.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, that's what I hear in that one. And I think it's so true. Um, And I don't think we give enough time to ourselves to sit down and actually work out, what do I want? What don't I want?
What don't I want? And what I don't I want is so important. Like, I do not want to be, now in this stage of my life, being frank, I don't want to be traveling all the time. I don't want to blah blah blah. I don't want to know what those things are. Because
Yeah,
the thing is, all that glitters isn't gold, and you'll see something, you'll think this is it. And it might be it on some of the things you want, but there might be more things that you don't. But if you're not thinking about that intentionally, then you can
Yeah,
land anywhere
absolutely. And you can't negotiate what you don't know.
for sure.
What you want to, you just can't negotiate it. How are you supposed to do
Sure.
that? You'll say
For
yes to
sure.
anything. Because,
For
and the
sure.
other thing that works out, I think there's that word. Whilst we love gratitude, you end up too grateful.
Listen.
Way too grateful. And then resentful. Oh,
Well, I don't know that it's actually grateful. And I don't know that people end up too grateful. What I think they do is it's not actually grateful. It's not actually being grateful. It is it's accepting less than you deserve, full stop. It's not about grateful. Because I think grateful is a place that you should send to yourself. Grateful for breath is some place you should even send to yourself. But I think the issue is settling for less than you deserve and being happy with that. And that is not a thing.
yeah, that is not a thing. I hear you. We used to call it the Grateful Dead. And the reason why is because you're so, and it's not so much grateful, you're right. It's accepting,
It's
just
accepting less
accepting of anything and taking that anything as everything.
because you believe you don't deserve it. Because
Because
the
you
world
believe,
tells you don't deserve it. Your world tells you don't deserve it. A whole bunch of things around us continues to tell you you don't deserve it. And so you
yeah,
start to believe you don't deserve it. And so you're happy with the scraps.
yeah, for sure. It's that value piece. We come back to it over and over again.
Again
The
and again.
value piece, for sure.
Again.
Okay, so so I know you've changed the order. So number 4 or your next one, what would that be for you?
Knowing the difference between being liked and being respected.
Ooh, ooh, you
Pretty
dropped that
important.
one.
It's the truth. I mean, like, you know, we do things to be liked and we don't do things to be respected. And that is a straight pathway to destruction.
Mm,
It does things to your self-confidence, to your psyche, to everything when
yeah.
you focus everything on the likes.
Tell me, so what does respected look like for that woman in leadership?
The people don't have to like what you say, they don't have to like what you do, but they respect you because they know that ultimately you have the best interest, your best interest, their best interest, and the best interest of the organization in mind. Right. And a part of that is through how we communicate with people and what we say. Now,
Mm,
sometimes you can't control the people and they'll do whatever they're gonna think. And that's fine. That is what it is. But
yeah,
respect is about, again, doing what you say you're going to do,
yeah,
being authentically who you are and showing up as who you are. Because again, when you're tethered and you're centered and you're grounded, people know you're not flapping, right? And they can get behind that. It's kind of how you build followership. Like when
mm,
people know that you're not flappable, and when I say not flappable, we all have emotions. It doesn't mean that you're not
yeah,
emotional and you don't have emotions. It means that you're tethered enough in the thing that you believe in that you are walking a path that people can follow.
yeah, yeah, for
That's
sure.
respect. Because liking me, you might like me, but be like, yeah, I like her. She's nice, but that's not. And who wants that? That might be okay with you, but it is from a very shallow lens.
Yeah,
The
and yeah,
start seeking like instead of respect.
I suppose there's also what did you surrender to be liked? Like it goes back to what you were saying just about knowing in your being who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. And it's like, well, it's just about everybody liking you, you can't sit in those things. It's just because you're now flappy. You're just about what everybody else wants of you, so that you
Well, you
can be
assign
like,
that to yourself, right? The likes that you get, like instead of being grounded in who you are, you begin to move towards the things that people like. And that is not a sustainable thing.
yeah, it's certainly not sustainable for a business, right? This isn't equal necessarily what you need to do to make it profitable or even sustainable. Okay, so we've got 4. We've got, You are enough, being certain and assured, intention and planning, knowing the difference between being liked and being respected. And so we come to your fifth and final thing.
Don't shrink.
Mm,
Like, it's don't shrink. It's really important that you manage and understand your profile.
yeah,
Like, profile is really important, and ensuring that people know you for the work that you do is really important. And from a both gender and cultural perspective, depending on what lens you're looking at, I'm thinking about my own. My lens says keep your head down and do a good job, and that's great. But that is not going to do that. That is not what you need if you lead. And so
yeah,
it's counter what a lot of us may have experienced in terms of our forming who we are, but
yeah,
it's something that you have to break out of and get to being able to understand, like, what are the kinds of things that I need to do. Why do I need people to know what I do? Well, if you're building your own business, you really want them to understand. Even if you're in a corporate job or a business working for someone else, the question is, I want to grow my career. People need to know who you are and what you can do. And if
yeah.
you're
Why
not doing
you?
those things, then
Mhm.
that again is not a sustainable path.
Mm. And I like something previous event that we had together, and something you said is that, you know, it's okay that you do a great job, but if nobody knows about it, how on earth are you supposed to get promoted? Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
There's always somebody waiting in the wings for the promotion, right? So is it going to be you or is it going to be them? And what are you going to do?
Yeah,
It's going to
absolutely.
be somebody.
And it's the person, let's be honest, it's the people who socialize who they are and what they do and how they do it that's going to get it. Because when you're in rooms that you're not in, they've already got evangelists. Who have you
Mhm.
got?
Right? For sure.
Okay, so our last thing, don't shrink. I think you're right. It's so counterintuitive to many of us, but that otherwise you're going to be sitting where you're sitting for a long time. It's like when we see women who've been sitting in organizations for 15 years. And yes, they've taken on extra jobs maybe, but they've not really been promoted. The income may not have changed either. And neither has their power,
For
for
sure.
sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Because they were shrinking, hoping that their hard work was going to tell it all. It doesn't tell all the story. And actually,
Yeah.
what they'll do is they'll keep you there. We'll leave her there. She's doing a good job. Leave her there.
For sure.
She makes me look good. Whew, those 5 things, they're so important. It's so interesting because I think that's something that we definitely do as women, get more qualifications, and that's not on the list. It's the personal development that we need to leverage for the professional success, for
Yeah, it is
sure.
not on the list. That is not on the list. I mean, professional development is great, and I think that's a
Mhm.
baseline. That's like continuous learning you should
Yeah.
be doing. That is not one of the top five in terms of how you show up as a leader.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so I want to talk about something that, related to all of this, especially for women in leadership, which is something I think many women in general may shy away from, which is feedback. Um, it's one of the ways in which we grow, but we can shy away from it and not want to hear it. But what would you say to a woman in leadership about feedback and how to use it?
About getting it or receiving it. I mean, giving it or receiving it.
I think definitely about receiving it.
Oh yeah. I say every feedback, no matter what it is, should be a gem. You should really consider it as a gift because you really need to know what people think. You need to know. And
Yeah.
if you can't take feedback and you get defensive, then people won't tell you. And then stuff is happening that you don't understand is happening. And so, feedback is such a gift. And even if you don't like what you're hearing, even if you don't agree, take it. Because guess what? If one person is experiencing it, it's likely there might be others.
Yes. Yeah.
Likely. But not entirely. Sometimes there's people who are just whatever. But by
Haters
the
gonna hate.
by,
But yeah.
they are, but by the by,
Yeah.
if one person's experiencing it, there are probably others experiencing it. So it's a gift to understand and know what the sentiment is people have about how you show up.
We can't wait to meet you at the Brilliance Summit, and we're so glad that you chose you and booked your ticket to ensure that you could experience not just the day, but everything that comes with it, including this podcast. Now, since you knew it was a good thing for you, we're wondering if you recognize it's a good thing for other women too. So please, take the time out to invite the women you know who would truly benefit from a day like the Brilliance Summit and this podcast. We can't wait to see you there. Yeah. Was there ever a piece of feedback that you got that kind of was the blow feedback, but when you sat with it, you took it on and it made a difference?
I use this one every single time somebody asks me a question like this. And it is, the feedback that I got was I was so delivery focused and I was really good. Like I never missed a deadline, but then I left a trail of dead bodies behind me doing it.
Yeah.
And I was horrified. I was like, what do you mean? Because I thought I was killing it. And I was killing the people. I was killing somebody. I was killing it all right, killing the people. And so it really is about, I had to, and I was mad. I was upset. I cried, all kind of things. Not at the time, like not with not when they were giving me the feedback afterwards, because I felt like a complete and utter failure when I got the feedback. But the reality is that I was too hard on people. And I was not really trying to hear about you had to do this or do that. Like we said, the date was March 31st, 30th, you need to get it done. Whatever. Like, this is your deadline. Like, stop playing with me. Stop playing in my face and do what you need to do. Right. And so, but I was so serious about that I missed some things.
Yeah. You missed the people, right? That's what happens. We've all done it. I had one when I first became a trustee. And I remember one of the board meetings, I went in on the tech guy because it was clear to me, you have no idea what you're talking about. Not that I'm a tech whiz, but brother, as the senior, as a kind of a senior tech manager, you are scaring the living daylights out of me. And I remember I had a meeting with the chairman. And he said to me, we operate at strategic level and you're going detailed, way too detailed. And so, that's not what anybody comes to the board meeting for. And that's not what we expect of board members. And let me tell you, I got in my car after that meeting. I bawled hard. I cried. I was so horrified. I also felt so affronted as well, because the other thing was nobody else on the board knew about tech. Nobody. Like, they were all tech. And so I was like, I came with this, and he was like, I know there was a lawyer who joined with me. She's like, I know what she brings to the table. I'm not sure what you bring to. So I was just like, this man. And I made a call to a friend. I said, okay, this has happened. She said, you know what? You may not like it, but he's right. You sit at strategic level. And I had to sit with that and go, okay, didn't like the feedback. Maybe didn't like the way it was given. Maybe don't even like the person. But like you say, where's the learning in it? What's the gem? And
usually the hardest feedback to hear is the stuff that's the most true. That has the most truth. Because like when somebody's like, oh my God, you're so amazing. You're like, yeah, thank you. I love it. And then they're like, you need to go sit down somewhere. And you're like, oh, it's the truth. Because it's true.
It's the truth. And it's the wailing. You're not just crying. You're like, it's a wailing.
It's wailing. But wailing is healthy. Like, there are classes where you can just go and wail and scream. Listen. And I'm all about it. Like, I tell people, go find a screaming class, a wailing session. Wailing is the most therapeutic thing ever.
Let me tell you, my mentor said to me, I was like, I think I'm going to go on a silent retreat. He was like, no, not you. You need to go scream. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, you need to go scream. And we had gone to Morocco, and I was in the Atlantic Sea, which is violent. The Atlantic is violent. And I was in there and I screamed. I think my family thought I had lost my mind. But it was the most therapeutic thing that I have done.
It feels so good.
It feels so good. I lost my voice once driving down the road with the windows open screaming. So, It's a good thing to do. You'll be surprised what you release. Okay, so I know you have been through the roller coaster of change, all the sorts of things. So when you're thinking about that roller coaster, how do you and when you're in leadership, there's often a roller coaster. How do you inspire confidence and maintain kind of a sense of direction for the people who may be in your team when it is rocky? What do you do?
I mean, you just kind of have to remember that especially in the current environment, as a leader, you may be the only certainty your team has inside of anything. And people spend most of their working day at work, and so that they're seeking certainty in the place they spend the most time. And so that's the thing you need to remember. Like, you have to be honest with people about, where you are. And the reality is, as leaders, we're also going through the same emotional shifts as people who are working in our teams. So we're not immune to it. However, if you take on a role as a leader and you're taking on a responsibility that sometimes, your how you feel isn't the thing, because you have to shepherd your team. And so if you don't want to do that, then don't be the leader, right? There's an option that you have. But I also say that we should be granting grace to leaders who are experiencing the same kind of emotional and environmental uncertainty as everybody else. But it is about creating certainty where you can. So within your team, you can create certainty for what's happening that you can control. Again, what you can control. What you can't control, stop trying to control. Like, you cannot. There's no point in that. And focus on what you can control. And what you can control for your team, for example, is if a deadline's on Wednesday and they're struggling, then make it on Friday. That's certainty. Like, you can do that, though. That's within your gift. It's within your gift to make sure that you're having your team meetings regularly, that they know they can always have a time and a space where they're going to be together. Whatever it might be, you control those things. Control the things you can control, and that's it.
I love that. And I love stop trying to control things that you can't control, because I think that creates so much uncertainty, because then you overpromise and you underdeliver, because you don't have the power to do anything about that particular thing, but you're setting expectations that are unrealistic and that you're not able to fulfill. I love that.
Sure.
Manage what you can. So decision making is definitely a big thing. You said it, better to make a bad decision than no decision at all. But are there any particular approaches that you've had to decision making that have seen you through your leadership journey?
I think it's that I use the 80-20 rule. Like, you're never going to have all the information to make a decision. Rarely do you ever have every piece of information that you need. So when you get to 80%, it's fine. Make a decision. And then I always use the thing with people when I'm making decisions and don't have all the information, or I'm still uncertain about the decision I'm having to make. I always say, this is the decision I'm making with the information that I have. Like, with the information that I have, this is what I'm making, because it also gives you space to go back and shift it if you need to.
Yeah.
And I think most of the time that's where we are. So I always will say that the decision I'm making is X based on what I know right now.
Yeah. I love that, Devere. I think it's so important. I think also sometimes we deal in absolutes, and there aren't many.
Very few.
There are very few.
Actually, nothing. I mean, there are none.
Right. And then we give ourselves a hard time because we made an absolute, but we couldn't keep to it because the stands are always shifting. So put in a caveat. Look, at this age, at this age, I recognize I may not have remembered what I said. Like,
speak for yourself. I'm just kidding. No, for sure. I don't remember what I say from day to day. That's for sure. I have to write everything down.
Right. So I'm not going to be an absolute about I definitely, I'm going to say, this is what I believe I said, or this is what I remember. And I think just having those, giving yourself the grace of the caveat, this doesn't mean to say that you never put a stake in the ground at all. But just giving yourself the grace. Yeah.
Or this was my intention. This is what I intended. It might not have been the thing, but here's what I intended.
Yeah. I love that. Absolutely fabulous. So we've come to a penultimate question.
That's fancy word. Penultimate. Penultimate year. Before I came to the UK, I didn't even know. I mean, I hadn't even heard that word used in a sentence for real. People were like penultimate. I was like, what's the penultimate? This is a pen, and what is ultimate? I don't understand. So I was confused. That was very posh of you. Go ahead.
Listen, this English language is far deep and wide. So how for you? I know you were exceptionally busy, high in demand, a lot going on. How do you prioritize your personal growth? And you're like, sorry, what now? And just stay committed. Look, you can laugh, but I know that you know what's going on in the world. You're on your game. There is no two ways about that. So how do you stay committed to that ongoing learning or an understanding as a woman in leadership?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I do know the answer to it. There's just so many things that fly around my head. How? I mean, I don't know. It's really funny that I'm kind of stumped. I did have an answer for it. I did.
We know it's the tumbleweed, man. You get to this
It
age.
is. Wait, ask me again,
All
and
right.
and maybe I'll think about it differently.
All right. How do you prioritize your personal growth and stay committed to ongoing learning as a woman in leadership?
I would say I every morning when I get up, I meditate. I do a meditation for about anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, depending on how much time I have. And I listen to meditations, like I listen to guided meditations, and I write in my journal most mornings because I have to center myself somehow. And I feel, again, when things are crazy, and not even when they're not, I just need that kind of spiritual anchoring. And so that's one way because that's personal growth for me. Like being anchored is growth. I mean, like it really does help you to walk through things in a way. So I'd say that the other thing is I read a lot. I mean, that's the only other thing is that I read a lot, but I don't read books a lot anymore. I know it sounds terrible, but it's true. I listen to Audible books sometimes, but I read a lot more articles. Like I read a lot of more short form things because my time is less, and I like to be able to finish it. I read a lot more short form things than I do now full books, unless I'm reading it for something.
Yeah.
Or in cases like a book of a friend, like The Brave Leader or something. So,
listen.
Just those kind of things.
I still haven't read it. I'm waiting for the Audible. When we go out, I sell them. That's all we need to know. That's more valuable. So I love that. And I'll tell you why I love it so much. It's because I think there's so much pressure on us to read X amount of books in a year. And if you're not doing enough, you're not clever enough. But actually, we're in a complete, like, if you think about when we were growing up, it was go to the library and look at some microfiche or hire out a book. I think now there is so much information, data, articles, so many different ways to consume information. And again, it's permission, giving yourself permission to do it differently. And I love that. And I'll definitely say the meditation and the journaling, two of the most grounding things you can do on a daily basis.
They really are.
And I agree with you. They are definitely personal development. So last question, everybody gets asked this. There is no think in this, by the way. We don't accept think on this one. What makes you brilliant?
It's just being who I am. I don't know. What makes me
My
brilliant?
existence. Sorry.
I mean, I just am. I don't know. I call it the humility in myself. I find that a hard one to do. Not lack of confidence, but I
Mhm.
feel like it's the light inside of me. Like I do always try to be light for people. I like to try to, and that's different than leading. It's really light. It is really a light place in some dark places people might be, and I really like to be that and try to be that. And I would say, if anything, that's the thing that would make me brilliant.
I love it. You shine very brightly, regardless.
Thank you.
Even on a bad day, you shine bright.
Oh,
So I say that with my full heart and my full chest.
and I take it.
Good.
I receive it with your full
Good.
heart, full chest.
Thank you so much for being you, and thank you for your brilliance, and for being here, and for answering, and for, there's always so much wisdom. I have to go and sit with myself after we have these kind of conversations.
Now, if I could just apply it, I'd be doing the best, right? That's the thing. I can tell you all about it. Now, let me apply it. Let me try to apply it back.
Physician, heal thyself. So I want to make sure that people can find you. So where can they find you? Where are the socials, website, all of it?
Yeah, they can find me at on LinkedIn, LinkedIn / India Gary Martin. On Instagram, India Gary Martin. On TikTok, India Gary Martin. On and that's where I do a lot of my kind of like career advice stuff.
Yeah.
In those places. I have something called Take 15, which is every Friday on Instagram at 12:30 Eastern time, which is 5 p.m. GMT, and every Monday at 12:30 Eastern time, 5 p.m. GMT on LinkedIn. So one on Instagram, one on LinkedIn, opposite days. And you can always find me at www.leadershipforexecs.com.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For your elegant wisdom. That's what I feel inspired to say.
I think I might post about that today. Somebody told me I had elegant wisdom. I receive it.
Yeah, you do. You really do. This has been the Brilliance Summit Podcast. We have been talking about 5 things every woman in leadership should know, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Brilliance Summit Podcast. We've been honoured with such amazing guests. So, if you've loved what you've heard, gained from it, or enjoyed it, please share the Brilliance Summit with women you know in leadership and emerging leadership so that they too can benefit from the content and the wisdom of our guests. We look forward to seeing you at the Brilliance Summit this year.